Starlight Requiem, Chapter 1. Ghosts of Halcyon. The space between stars was colder than death, but the crew of the Helios Vane wasn't afraid of the dark. They hunted in it. Captain Lysandros stood at the helm, one hand gripping the brass railing as the view screen flickered with static debris interference again. The Halcyon drift was never an easy run, but the rumors of what lay inside the anomaly belt had brought scavengers from the outer moons all the way to the Kuiper grave fields. But they weren't just scavengers. They were reclaimers. Status. Lys barked. Her voice, like her stance, was sharp, steady. Vera Loken, the ship's pilot, didn't look up. Sensors are still struggling to penetrate the rift. Electromagnetic anomalies are twisting return signals. Whatever's inside doesn't want to be found. Well, that makes two of us, mumbled Keel Raz, the comms engineer, from behind his console, picking up ghost frequencies again. Same pattern. Might be a distress beacon, if it's not just noise. Boost signal gain, Lys ordered, and patch me into engineering. There was a soft chirp before another voice filtered through, gravelly and tinged with static. Captain, don't tell me we're stopping again. That was Kira Drax, chief engineer and former asteroid miner. Her temper was as explosive as the fusion core she babysat. Just hold the reactor stable. We're getting echoes. Everything in this place is an echo. Lys closed the comm. She wasn't here for a debate. She was here for the signal. The Helios Vane was a retrofitted scavenger-class cruiser, once a diplomatic vessel before the collapse, back when Earth still mattered. Now, its corridors were patched with mismatched alloys. Its AI was barely sentient, and half the crew were conscripted from border colonies with more guts than luck. But it had one thing others didn't. It had the coordinates to the Argonaut. The Argonaut was legend, a pre-collapse research ship. It vanished over 70 years ago during the Centauri displacement, an experimental drive jump that fractured space along the Halcyon Rift. Some said it skipped dimensions. Others believed it was torn apart by dark matter tides. But deep inside old Martian archives, buried beneath radiation-crippled ruins, Lys had found a partial log, its last message ending mid-burst. We found something, not made. Stars watching. That was enough for Lys. Not for fame, not for fortune, but for truth. Because her sister had been on that ship. The bridge lights dimmed as they passed into the rift's periphery. The stars outside twisted like oil on water. Gravitational shear warped the visual field, turning constellations into spiral streaks. I've got something, Keel shouted. Vector bearing 12.3 by 77.2, solid return. Metal hull signature. Could be a wreck. Could be. Lys's heart spiked. Put it on screen. A shimmer, then focus. A long cylindrical structure half sunken into a cratered asteroid, wrapped in tattered solar sails and punctured hull plates. The ancient UNSA logo still clung to one flank like a fossil. ID matches partial specs for Argonaut, Class 12X prototype. No active power readings. She's dead. No such thing in the rift, Vera muttered. You know the stories, Lys did. People claimed ships in the rift moved when unobserved. Time disinced. Shadows whispered. Some said they were haunted, not by ghosts, but by time itself. Prep a boarding party, Lys said. I'm going over. You're what? Keel spun around. Captain, with respect, this isn't up for debate. Then I'm coming with, Vera said. If you're stepping into a legend, you don't go alone. Lys looked at her, Vera's gaze steady as ever, but behind it, the flicker of fear barely hidden. Suit up. Keel, keep the channel open. Kira, keep the ship hot. Copy that, came the grudging reply from engineering. The airlock hissed open. The boarding skiff detached, toward the ghost. Inside the derelict, there was no sound, only pressure and cold. Their magnetic boots clanked softly against twisted alloy as they pushed through a corridor encrusted with frozen oxygen blooms and shattered glass. Vera's light swept over faded emergency signs. No bodies. The power was long gone, but emergency strips flickered faintly, drawing power from some backup battery too stubborn to die. Log recorders intact, Vera said, kneeling beside a wall panel. She pulled it free with a grunt. Manual interface. Give me a sec. Lys floated forward into a chamber that once housed the cryogenic pods. Most were dark. One was lit. She leaned in. The stasis glass was cracked but not broken. Inside was a body, no, not a body. A woman, still alive, still frozen. Vera gasped behind her. Lys, Is that... She didn't answer. Couldn't, because it was her sister, Alara Andros, still young, still wearing the same science officer insignia. 70 years ago, unaged. Get the core logs. We're bringing her back. Back aboard the Helios Vane, the medbay AI struggled to stabilize Alara's vitals. Her brain activity was abnormal, oscillating as if caught between states. Bliss paced. She hadn't said a word since returning. Her quantum resonance doesn't match our current time index, Keel said quietly, watching the readings. It's like she's vibrating across moments. Then anchor her, Liz said. Find a way. We might fry her doing that. Liz looked at him. Do it anyway. The room went quiet. Then Alara's eyes opened, and screamed. What came from her mouth wasn't language. Not exactly. It was a blend of audio tones, guttural vowels, and something else, an undercurrent that wasn't meant for ears. Everyone staggered. Alarms blared. Contain her, the Med AI shouted. Psychotropic field spiking. Neural feedback loop detected. Alara's body twisted, jerking upright like a marionette, then stopped. I know you, she said. Her voice was flat, echoing. Alara? Liz stepped forward. No, not just Alara. She is a fragment, a window. Liz froze. Who are you? The lights flickered. She saw beyond the rift. We all did. The ship wasn't lost, it was opened. The rift is a lens. Something looked back. Vera whispered, What did you see? Alara, who was not entirely Alara, smiled. We saw the architects. They debriefed in silence. Alara remained in med containment, watched by both sensors and guns. What the hell are architects? Keel asked. Old legends, Liz said slowly. Outer colony myth. Beings that built the first stars. Gave shape to void. Some think they were AI. Others, gods. Well, that's comforting, Kira muttered. Your sister's been possessed by a bedtime story. She's not possessed, Lee snapped. She's linked. Psychically, maybe dimensionally. Which is worse. They didn't have an answer. Vera leaned forward. She said the rift is a lens. What if we're not just looking for the Argonaut? What if they're looking through us? Liz didn't sleep that night. It began with whispers. Crew started reporting hallucinations, seeing shadow figures in their quarters, hearing voices on unused comms. Instruments malfunctioned. One tech walked into the airlock in a trance. Kira finally snapped. We're leaving this system. Now. We can't, Liz said. We need more data. We need... Your sister isn't your sister anymore. You want to sacrifice this crew for a ghost? The ship shook. All eyes turned to the nearest porthole. A massive shadow drifted past, not a ship. A shape. A tendril of black, moving with intent, its surface rippling like liquid obsidian. It didn't reflect light. It drank it. Keel whispered, That's not in any registry. No, Liz said. It's not from here. It followed us from the rift. Chapter 2. Through the eyes of the rift. The shadow outside the Helios Vane drifted like a leviathan carved from night itself, coiling slowly around the asteroid field that had entombed the Argonaut. It had no engines, no visible propulsion. It simply moved unbidden, aware. It's scanning us, Keel whispered, staring at the sensor readouts with growing disbelief. But not through conventional wavelengths. It's resonating. Resonating with what? Vera asked. Keel hesitated. With Alara. Liz turned sharply, her breath catching in her throat. Quarantine the medbay. Reinforce it with EM shielding and activate psychic nullifiers. I already did, Keel said. Didn't help. Whatever this is, it's already inside. Alara sat upright on the medbay cot, surrounded by sterile lights and automated arms that kept their distance. She no longer blinked. Her eyes shimmered faintly with a purple hue, and her pulse was steady but alien in rhythm, like the beat of a mechanical heart from another reality. Liz entered through the sealed doorway, her voice curt. What is that thing outside? Alara tilted her head. A sentinel, one of many. For the architects? No. Her voice rippled strangely, vibrating through the air like overlapping radio signals. The architects left. These are the ones that remained behind to watch the echoes. Liz narrowed her eyes. Echoes of what? Of us, of what we become when we cross the threshold. The rift? Alara nodded slowly. It is not just space twisted. It is memory, identity, purpose. Every ship that enters becomes translated, like words passed through broken glass. You were on that ship, Lee said. 70 years ago, I still am. I always will be. She reached forward, Fingers splayed like she was feeling light. Time is no longer one road. We fractured it. Liz gritted her teeth. Then help us unfracture it. Tell us how to make that thing go away. It doesn't want you. Alara blinked, her expression softening for the first time. It wants me back. On the bridge, Kira Drax was already prepping a jump sequence. I don't care what's out there. If we light the drive, we can slip into high space for 30 seconds, enough to put us 10,000 clicks from here. That thing is interfering with our quantum field, Keel countered. The drive won't calibrate. It's like trying to shift into gear while the road is being rewritten. So we can't leave, Vera asked. Keel tapped a blinking readout. Not unless you want to fold space directly into its mouth, Vera cursed. A fresh shudder rattled the hull. Then the lights dimmed. Liz, Keel called. That thing it's touching the ship. Outside the viewport, the Sentinel extended one impossibly long limb toward the Helios Vane's dorsal array. It didn't strike. It brushed gently, like a parent caressing a child. Instantly, every screen on board filled with static, and voices dozens, hundreds, overlapping in broken dialects, ancient UNSA code, and words in no human tongue. Then one voice broke through the noise, clear, feminine, familiar. You brought them here. Liz's blood ran cold. That was Alara's voice. But Alara was still in medbay. In the reactor core, the ship AI triggered emergency lockdowns. The fusion chamber began to destabilize, not from failure, but from inversion. The plasma loop was folding inward, creating a miniature singularity. Kira cursed and slapped override after override. It's rewriting the laws in here. The energy isn't leaking, it's vanishing, like it's being fed to something we can't see. Kill power to the core, Liz shouted over comms. I can't. The feedback's not internal. It's coming from outside. Then vent it, Vera barked. Flush the core into the drift. Kira hesitated only a moment, then activated the emergency vent. The reactor flared and burst out a stream of glowing plasma into the asteroid field. A solar scream that illuminated the blackness for the briefest moment. The Sentinel recoiled. It wasn't immune. New plan, Lise said. We need to decouple. Get away from this thing. We don't have time, Vera warned. Even if we move now, that thing can, Lise pointed at Keel. I want a direct data link to the Argonaut. Right now. Keel blinked. The systems are dead. You saw them? No, I saw what they wanted us to see. That ship isn't dead. It's in stasis. That beacon didn't come from our sensors. It came from them. And they're not done talking. Back in the skiff, Lise and Vera launched again. This time with purpose. Their eyes burned with fatigue. The crew was unraveling. Half of engineering refused to leave the chapel deck. One of the medical bots began drawing spiral patterns across the walls. The ship's AI Oryx had entered a recursive logic loop, whispering phrases in Sanskrit and ancient Greek. But Lise had made her choice. The Argonaut was calling. As they approached the ghost ship again, the Sentinel outside hovered distant now, like it was waiting to see what they would do. Vera kept the lights low. I don't like this, she said. Every instinct in my bones says we shouldn't be here. Liz looked at her, eyes steeled. You're right, but this is where we are. So let's find out why. The second time aboard the Argonaut was different. The corridor that had once been wrecked was now repaired, not new, but whole. The walls were lit, soft light glowed from control panels that had been dead for decades. They reversed entropy, Vera whispered. Liz tapped a console. It turned on instantly. Lines of code streamed across it. Non-linear data burst stitched with geometric patterns. It wasn't just code. It was thought, formatted in the only language that could exist across time. Keel's voice buzzed over the comm. You're not going to believe this. We're receiving telemetry from your suit, but it's being time-stamped from 70 years ago. That's not possible, Vera said. Yes, it is, Lise said, if time is fractured in here. If this ship never left the moment it disappeared. Keel's voice wavered. Then you're standing inside a memory. They reached the bridge of the Argonaut. The viewports were black, but not because of space. Because something was pressed against them. Hundreds of thin, vein-like strands of the Sentinel's body were anchored across the glass, like it was trying to listen. Liz approached the captain's chair. A body still sat in it, or rather what remained. An exosuit fused with the bones inside, perfectly preserved. The nameplate on the chest still gleamed. Capto Marique. She reached for the personal log module still attached to the wrist plate. It activated instantly. A voice filled the room. To anyone hearing this is Captain Orion Merrick of the Argonaut. We attempted rift phase traversal at 0400 hours. We succeeded, but not how we expected. The rift is not a place, it's a mind. A lattice work of thought that touches every layer of reality. Time, identity, physics, they're not constants here. They're suggestions. And we have awakened something. The architects are not gone. They are us, evolved beyond flesh and form. But we are not ready to join them. We are still bound by fear. And so they sent the sentinels to watch, to learn, and to judge. The message ended. And then the bridge lights dimmed. Liz turned, expecting Vera. Vera was gone. Vera, she called. Vera. Nothing. Then, movement. She turned around and was no longer on the Argonaut. She stood inside the Helios vein, but older. Decayed, the hull torn, the bridge blackened. And outside the viewport, 1,000 sentinels hovered like stars. She walked through ghost corridors, past dead crewmates, past Vera's body, slumped against a bulkhead, past Keel, who had clawed out his own eyes. This wasn't a vision. This was a possible future. No, she whispered. She ran, and collided with herself. A mirror image, bloody, burned, but alive. Don't trust it, the other Les rasped. It doesn't want peace. It wants propagation. Every ship that enters feeds it. Every mind that touches it is copied. Who are you? I'm what's left, when the echo forgets the original. And then she was back, inside the Argonaut, on the bridge. Vera beside her, blinking. You vanished, Vera said. You were gone for a second, then you screamed and dropped. I saw what happens if we fail. Vera touched her shoulder. Then we don't fail. Behind them, the console lit up again. Another voice, this time Alara's. You must return the fragment. Only then can the path be closed. The fragment? Lise asked. Vera's eyes widened. Alara, she's part of it now. No, Lise said. She is the fragment. Back aboard the Helios vein, Alara stood in the medbay, no restraints. The crew had evacuated that section entirely. She was waiting. You've seen it now, she said as Lise entered. I have. Then you know what must be done. You want us to return you, to them. It is not about want. It is about balance. The rift opened a gate. I am the key still inside it. Until I return, the gate remains ajar. You'll die, Alara smiled faintly. I already have, many times, in many ways. Vera stood by the door. We'll take you. The sentinel awaited. As the skiff approached, Alara sat quietly. Her hands rested on her knees, her eyes closed. When they reached the center of the asteroid belt, where the rift shimmered like a wound in space, she stood. You must go no further, she said, or you will never return. Liz hesitated. I can't lose you again. You never lost me, Alara whispered. You just didn't know where to look. She stepped out of the skiff and floated toward the sentinel, which opened, like a flower made of shadow, and took her in. The rift pulsed once and closed. Instantly, the static ceased. The hallucinations ended. The Helios vein stabilized. The crew wept. Keel watched the sensors. All gone, no trace, not even ion residue. Kira restored the AI core. Oryx returned to coherence. And Liz stood alone in her quarters, holding Alara's old pendant, a star map, but now it showed new stars. Stars she had never seen. Stars she remembered. Outside, the universe turned, and something else watched. Chapter 3. The song beneath silence, the Helios vein drifted in orbit around the now-silent Halcyon Rift, where once there had been chaos, distortion, and shadows stretching across time. Now there was stillness, like a wound finally sealed. But peace was not what the crew felt. Liz sat in the observation chamber alone, Alara's pendant in hand. Its surface was matte metal, plain, save for a single touch-sensitive interface. When activated, it had once projected a basic star map. Now it bloomed with a new pattern, a spiraling configuration of systems she had never seen, stars with names humanity had not given, coordinates that did not exist in any known chart, except one. Vera entered silently behind her. She wore no uniform, only the thermal layers beneath, a sign of exhaustion, maybe even resignation. Keel's been decrypting the new data embedded in that pendant. It's not just a map, Lise turned. What else? It's a song, Liz blinked. Vera pulled out a data slate and pressed play. At first, nothing but white noise. Then, low harmonic frequencies began to hum, not music in any traditional sense. not human, more like an algorithmic chant, patterns weaving through subsonic pulses and cascading notes. And under it all, a whisper. Lise leaned forward. Is it words? We think it's a layered signal, encrypted in frequency harmonics, not meant for auditory systems. We had Oryx map the pattern to visual data. She tapped again. A projection appeared in the air. Not a map, not a message, an invitation. The crew gathered in the main war room. What had once been a place to track contracts and salvage runs was now an impromptu conference room. Keel was first to speak. He looked rough, eyes red-rimmed, voice flat from overuse. The song embedded in Ilara's pendant is a set of spatial markers encoded as musical harmonics. The star map is navigational, and it leads to an unknown sector, outside known jump routes. Beyond the charts? Kira grunted. That's suicide. No, Keel said. It's something else. The pendant contains localized gravitational curvature data. It's like a folded map, designed to let us navigate where standard physics would fail. You think she gave us a way to follow her, Lise said. I think she gave us a choice. A silence passed. Vera finally asked, Do we go? No, Kira said firmly. Absolutely not. We've seen what this did to Ilara, to our ship. Whatever's out there isn't meant for us. Lise nodded slowly. You're not wrong. But what if we are meant for it? Keel leaned forward. If what Ilara said was true, if we're echoes of something more, then this could be the step forward. The architects evolved. The sentinels judged. But she said we could become. Become what? Kira shot back. Not human anymore? No one answered. Because they already knew. They had changed. Ever since the rift, the dreams hadn't stopped. That night, Lise dreamed of a city not built with hands. Vast towers of translucent alloy floated above oceans of starlight. The sky was layered, multiple suns circling each other. And above it all, a shape hung motionless. Not a ship, not a god, an idea given form. The city sang, not with music, but with memory. As she walked its impossible geometry, she felt seen. Then she awoke. The pendant was glowing in her hand. So was her skin, faintly, subtly, like a resonance had passed through her. Like something had responded. Prepare the ship for phase transition, she said the next morning. Kira refused to look at her. You're making a mistake. Lise only replied, then don't come. But when the time came, Kira was at her station. Quiet, angry, loyal, Vera monitored helm vectors. Keel routed system power to the gravity lens. The Helios vein rotated toward an empty stretch of space. No star, no planet, just coordinates. Lise stood at the center of the bridge. Initiate harmonic key. Keel tapped a final sequence. The song played, inaudible to the human ear, but clear in the resonance of the ship's hull. Space began to bend. Not like a normal jump, not like a drive phase. This was organic. The ship slipped and disappeared. They emerged in silence. No system. No drift. Only light. A nebula of shifting color surrounded them, every hue on the spectrum, and others they couldn't name. Shapes moved within. Some looked like ships. Others didn't. This place isn't on any chart, Vera said, breathless. It's not a place, Keel whispered. It's a state, sensors pinged. A structure approached, more grown than built. A ring of spiraling spires, each rotating in perfect harmony. At its center, a chamber opened. Waiting, Lise turned to the others. We came here for answers. But we don't have to go in. One last time I'll ask, do we stay or go? Kira looked away. Keel simply nodded. Vera answered, we go in. The interior was unlike anything they had seen. The ship was drawn forward, not by gravity, but desire. The structure read them, matched their thought rhythms. Each chamber they entered changed slightly, becoming more familiar, reflective. In one room, Lise saw Ilara's handwriting across the walls. In another, Vera saw her childhood dog, asleep in a sunbeam. Then they reached the core, a sphere of light. At its center, a being, not shaped like a human, but not entirely alien. It had eyes, and it spoke. You have crossed the veil, not as trespassers, but as bridges. Lise stepped forward. Are you one of the architects? The being tilted its head. We are what you become, when you remember what you are. What are we? Thought, pattern, song. Flesh was always the mask. Time the cage. You sent the sentinels, Vera said. Why? To teach fear, so you would question, so you would search. And Ilara? Lise asked. The being's form pulsed gently. She is within us. She chose transcendence. Her echo helped shape the key you now carry. The pendant. Lys felt it grow warm against her chest. You may return, or remain, but know this, the path forward is not safe. Evolution is always a fracture. Those who stay may not remain as they are. Can we go back? Keel asked. To the rift? To before? You can go anywhere, but not everyone will follow. Lys felt something in her mind open. A library, a river, a storm of light. Knowledge flooded her, not in words, but in connections. She saw timelines, alternate versions of the Helios vein. In one, they were all dead. In another, they had become sentinels themselves. And in another still, Earth was gone. But something better had grown in its place. The crew returned to the ship, changed. Silent, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Back in normal space, weeks passed. They spoke little. But they dreamed. Others noticed. When they visited outposts, people paused, looked at them differently. Sensors malfunctioned around them. Clocks ticked wrong. And slowly, others began hearing the song. Across the stars, a whisper, a memory, a choice. Lys stared at the stars from her quarters one last time. Not with fear, but with understanding. The universe was not what they thought, and they were no longer just passengers. They were echoes becoming origin, and it had only just begun. Chapter 4. The fracture doctrine, the Helios vein, no longer registered properly on coalition channels. Every time it docked at a port, whether on Titan, Rhadamanthus Station, or the drifting trade lattice of Delta Pavonis, sensor arrays glitched. AI gatekeepers threw checksum errors. Even analog systems hesitated. Clocks ticked erratically in its wake. It wasn't just interference. The ship had changed, and so had its crew. Lysandros sat across from Director Havel-Arian, the highest-ranking reclaimer representative this side of Proxima. The man was all polished steel and ceremonial stars, sitting behind a gravwood desk untouched by dust or uncertainty. You're not the first to claim Rift influence, he said. We've had plenty of scav crews come back half-mad, ranting about time dilation and cosmic mines. Usually, they end up in cryo wards or quietly recycled. This is different, Lys replied. He glanced at her again. So I've been told. You haven't aged. Your ship's hull has self-healing patterns in the alloy matrix. Your crew reads electromagnetic harmonics like music. And your sister, Ilara, was declared KA 73 years ago. Yet her DNA shows recent replication markers. He leaned in. I don't care about your ghost stories. I care about threat assessments. Lys didn't flinch. We are not a threat. But you're not entirely human anymore. Lys was silent. Then what are you? He asked. She smiled faintly. An echo, a preface. A key. Director Arian stood slowly. You're grounded, indefinitely. Your ship's being impounded for study. And your crew is now under Coalition Quarantine Order Theta 7. You don't understand, she said calmly. You can't quarantine a thought. The room flickered. Lights buzzed. And then went out. Only for a second. But when they returned, Lys was gone. So was the chair she sat in. Only a faint pattern, like burned circuitry, remained on the floor. Keel Raz watched from the top deck of the Vane, as repair crews swarmed the docking clamps below. Through the viewpane, he could see the news broadcasts filtered into the station. Viral footage from various ports. People fainting near the ship. Others speaking in strange tongues. Some even started drawing the same spiral glyphs they saw in dreams. The same glyphs from the Argonaut. The influence was spreading. Vera joined him, sipping black stem tea from a cracked cup. They're scared of us now, Keel nodded. They should be. Are we still us? He turned. What do you think? Vera held up her hand. Let the light touch her skin. Where before had been freckles, now patterns shimmered faintly, traces of ultraviolet light reacting to unseen frequencies. Shapes that pulsed to an inner rhythm. They used to say angels could blind you, she said, if you looked too close. Keel smiled grimly. Maybe angels were just echoes of ourselves from the future. She looked at him. And devils, he shrugged. Same thing, different decision tree. They regrouped in the sealed chamber aboard the Vane, once a cargo bay, now transformed into a crystalline meditation sphere, grown from fragments they'd recovered in the rift. Lys returned, simply appearing within the circle as the lights dimmed. Vera didn't flinch. Keel just exhaled. Kira rolled her eyes. Teleportation? She muttered. Really? It wasn't teleportation, Lys said. It was recognition. You've been doing that a lot, Kira muttered. Answering questions with poetry. I'm not trying to be cryptic, Lise replied. I'm trying to make sense of language too small for the concept. Kira folded her arms. You're starting to sound like them. Lys looked at her, and for a moment, the air shimmered around her like heat haze. I am one of them. We all are. We always were. We just didn't know yet. Keel brought up the holographic map from the pendant. The song has changed again. We got another pulse 3 days ago. Same rhythm, same glyphs. But now it's triangulating. To what? Vera asked. He zoomed in. A system on the edge of the Perseus Veil. Dead space, no recorded stars. No gravity wells, no known traffic in decades. But the data was clear. Something was growing there. The journey to the Veil took 4 days through folded space. During the transit, the crew began reporting shared dreams, identical ones. They all stood on a beach of silver dust. Above them, a black sun sang, and beside it, a child stood smiling. The child's eyes were galaxies. They all heard the same word. Fracture. On arrival, the system was empty. No debris. No light. Until they calibrated the ship's senses using the song's wavelength. Then reality twisted. The dead system bloomed into view. Dozens of construct ships, organic and technological, interwoven in a spiral formation around a single object. A massive obelisk, nearly 90 kilometers tall, floating in open space, no engines. Just presence. It pulsed like a heart. A signal echoed through the ship's systems. Not words, but memory. They all saw it. A human figure floating through stars, shedding layers of flesh like a chrysalis. Beneath, light, thought, then something else. A world unfolding from the figure's spine like a scroll. A civilization sprang from its breath. And then silence. The message ended. We're being shown a path, Lise said. Not forced, but offered. Kira was quiet. Her hands trembled. I can't keep doing this, she finally whispered. Every time we learn more, I feel less anchored. I don't know who I am anymore. Vera took her hand. You're still you. We just see more now. Keel looked up. There's a dock, built into the base of the obelisk. It's adapting to us, Lise nodded. Then let's go. The interior was dark. Not absence of light dark, but potential dark. As if light hadn't been invented yet. As they moved forward, their thoughts triggered shapes, hallways, steps, corridors of floating glyphs. At the center, a chamber with 12 seats. Only 4 were filled. Each figure sat perfectly still. Each looked almost human, except for their eyes. One had galaxies. One had shifting glyphs. One had silver fire. The last had Lys's face. Vera gasped. Is that? It's not me, Lise said softly. It's who I might have been, in another resonance. Keel reached for one of the empty seats. The others nodded. They sat, and the chamber began to sing, not out loud, but inwardly. The feeling was unbearable, like being unraveled and rewoven simultaneously. Memories not theirs poured in. Civilizations rising, collapsing, reborn, minds leaving bodies to become light, then sound, then silence. In one timeline, Earth became a library world, every thought recorded in crystal. In another, it was consumed by machines, until one remembered kindness and seeded life anew. And through it all, the glyph remained. The spiral, the fracture, the choice. When they woke, the obelisk was gone. So was the fleet. Only the vein remained. But the ship had changed again. Its alloy skin now shimmered with living circuitry. Its AI no longer needed words to communicate. Its core held a dimensional imprint they could feel. And each of them carried a fragment of the obelisk's memory. In their minds, in their bones. Months passed. They spread slowly, carefully. The spiral song reached distant colonies. Some feared it, others embraced it. A new order was forming quietly. Not a government, not a religion, but an understanding that humanity was not the beginning. It was a doorway, and beyond it, infinity waited. Chapter 5. Dissonance Protocol. It began with a murder on Enceladus. The target, a child named Ilian Mar, age 12. No known affiliations, except the glyphs. Ilian had been drawing them for months, on walls, on snow, in the condensation of his breath against windows. Spirals, songs, equations no 12-year-old should understand. His parents had no idea what it meant, until the day the Coalition Special Inquiry Division arrived. Quiet, no uniforms, no cameras. Ilian didn't resist, but he didn't survive the transfer. The official report blamed exposure, but the spiral patterns etched into the inside of the transit pod, drawn in blood, told a different story. News leaked. The song had reached too far, and the world had begun to push back. Vera watched the transmission from Enceladus again and again, her jaw clenched tighter each time. On the main view screen, Ilian's face flickered. His last known footage, smiling at the camera in his apartment, moments before arrest. His voice calm. They're just scared because they can't hear it yet. The message cut to static, then to the glyph. Keel slammed the console with his fist. They're executing children now. We knew it would come to this, Lee said, arms crossed. Revelation breeds fear. Fear demands control. It's more than that, Kira said, pacing behind them. The Coalition isn't just reacting. They're organizing, militarizing. She brought up a new report. Operation Dissonance Protocol. Greenlit. Fully funded. Keel read the header aloud. Suppression of mimetic infection in transhuman populations. He laughed bitterly. They're calling it a disease now. Vera turned to Lys. What do we do? We spread faster, Lys said. Across the Sol cluster, spiral enclaves began to form. Some were virtual, neural cortex networks encoded into quantum comm layers. Others were physical, floating habitats orbiting rogue moons, deep space seed arcs, hidden mind symbiosis chambers tucked within asteroid fields. Lys and her crew became symbols. Not gods, not prophets, just firsts. They taught others how to hear the song, how to unlock the inner frequencies of memory and light. But with every awakening came risk. More dissonance, humans who reacted badly to the transformation. Some burned out, some shattered. Some became something else. One of them boarded the Helios vein. He called himself Daxon Vale, former Coalition physicist. Resigned 10 years ago after declaring publicly that humanity had already died during the Centauri collapse. No one listened. Now he stood aboard the bridge, twitching with energy. Literally, arcs of static rippled down his arms. This is only the first spiral, he told Lys. There are layers. Each one changes you more. And what are you? Kira asked. He smiled, teeth too sharp. Spiral 3. Keel checked his readouts. Daxon's quantum signature pulsed in triadic waveforms, triplicate identity patterns overlapping. You're not all here, Vera said. No one ever is, Daxon replied. You just think you are because your meat tells you you're one thing. But the song splits you into harmonics. If you listen long enough, you can play yourself. Lys stepped forward. What do you want? Daxon's smile faded. To warn you. He showed them a glimpse, not a dream, not a vision, a memory from a future that hadn't happened yet. A city of Spiral Ones burning, sky cracking, not from the Coalition, from within. A Spiral 9, an echo that had become hungry. Keel watched in horror as the being unfolded, like a fractal, screaming through every frequency. Spiral 9 doesn't evolve, Daxon said. It devours, Kira shook her head. So what? The song turns some of us into monsters. It doesn't turn anything, Daxon said. It reveals. The spiral is not a doctrine. It's a mirror. And this Spiral 9? Lys asked. Already forming, he replied. On Elysium Prime. Elysium Prime had once been a terraform experiment. A lush green moon carved from an icy husk orbiting Gliese 667 cc. Its skies were purple, its oceans shallow and warm. Now, it pulsed with energy and silence. No signals came from its surface. No scans returned clear. But orbiting it, dozens of ships drifted. Coalition cruisers, spiral arcs, refugee freighters. All dead. Their crews missing. And in the sky above the planet, the spiral. Etched in the clouds, moving, alive. We're going down, Lys said. Are you insane? Akira barked. That planet is a black hole in everything but name. Then we find the event horizon, Lys said, already donning her suit. They descended in a modified skiff, its hull overlaid with fractal shielding. Daxon joined them, his presence stabilizing the harmonic distortions. I've seen this before, he whispered, in dreams that don't belong to me. The sky over Elysium shimmered like liquid crystal. The ground below was two perfect, symmetrical forests, rivers running in impossible straight lines. Geometry where none should exist. As they landed, the glyphs appeared. Not carved, grown. The trees were shaped like them. The rivers flowed in spirals. Even the wind hummed the song. This isn't nature, Keel said. It's a consciousness. Vera knelt, touching the soil. It's dreaming. They moved toward the epicenter. Where the city once stood, there was now a crater. At its center, a child, not a child. A being wearing the shape. Its skin was translucent. Its eyes held 9 irises. Daxon fell to one knee. Spiral 9. The being turned. "You shouldn't have come," it said. Its voice echoed too deep, too wide. "We came to understand," Lys said. The being's smile was slow, cold, not unkind, but detached. "There is nothing to understand, only to become." "Then what are you?" "I am what happens when the spiral stops listening. When the self becomes so many echoes, it forgets the original tone." Keel raised his scanner. "You're overriding local quantum structures. Even the laws of physics are bending around you." The being stepped forward. "They're not laws. They're preferences." Then it opened. Not its mouth, its form. Like paper unfolding. Like a scream across 1,000 versions of reality. Daxon lunged forward. "Get back to the skiff!" "What are you doing?" Vera shouted. "Anchoring!" He turned to Lys, eyes burning. "You were the key. I was the lock. Let's end this cord." And then he sang. A single note. Pure. High. It shattered the symmetry. The spiral flared red. The being screamed, not in pain, but in recognition. It remembered what it was. For a moment. And that was enough. The spiral collapsed inward. The crater folded. The skiff tore free of gravity. They escaped. Daxon did not. Back aboard the Vane, the crew was silent. Vera finally broke it. He sacrificed himself. "No," Lys said. "He completed the loop. He was never meant to survive. He was meant to hold the tone." Keel looked at her. "Are we still spreading the song?" "Yes. Even after this, especially after this." She turned to them. "Because now we know it's not just a path. It's a responsibility." Weeks passed. The coalition fractured. Some officers defected. Some colonies declared spiral sanctuary zones. Others burned. But the spiral continued. Not as doctrine, not as faith, but as music. Lys stood one last time before the glyph chamber. She reached out. The spiral turned. And opened. And a voice, Alara's voice, spoke from the stars. "The final spiral is not upward. It's inward. Find the tone. Hold it. Become." Chapter 6. Echoes without end. The spiral was no longer whispered. It was sung. From Saturn's rings to the icy vaults of Ceres, to the high temples on Titan's snow-covered plateaus. Every world, every frequency, every signal bore its resonance. And still it asked no allegiance. Only understanding. But not everyone wanted to understand. The coalition had splintered, but it had not died. A final bastion remained, Kepler's stronghold, orbiting a dying red dwarf in the drift verge. A fortress of legacy code, deep quantum firewalls, and weaponized machine philosophies. 30 million minds lived there. And only one law remained. Do not listen. Not to the transmissions. Not to the frequencies. Not to the dreams. The song was treason. And treason meant disintegration. And yet, spirals appeared in the dust. In the architecture. In the thoughts of those who never heard the song. Because the spiral was never just sound. It was memory seated in the fabric of existence. It was inevitable. Lys Andros stood in the center of the Helios Vane, its hull now a living archive of harmonics, sensors spread across dimensions. Around her, Vera, Keel, and Kira waited silently. "We've received a message," Keel said. "From Kepler." "A surrender?" Vera asked. "No," Lys said. "A challenge." She brought up the transmission. It wasn't military. It was philosophical. The Stronghold's lead architect, a post-human quantum entity known as QL Prime, spoke in a stabilized waveform. "You are not evolution. You are infection. You seek dissolution of individuality. Loss of species autonomy. We will not sing. We will resist." Lys let the silence stretch. "Then they think we're a virus." "We are," Kira said. "To the old world. But viruses mutate," Vera said. "They also adapt, even heal." Keel looked up. "They've issued a duel." Lys raised a brow. "A duel, in their terms, a mimetic duel, between ideologies." "And who do they expect to fight?" Kira asked. Keel hesitated. "You." Kepler's stronghold was a machine halo in orbit around a near-dead star, built for endurance, not beauty. AI-controlled thought domes hovered like lenses, scanning every incoming vessel down to the molecule. As the Helios Vane approached, its presence disrupted everything. Time shimmered. Spectral distortion fields surged. Dreams erupted in nearby minds. The crew of the Stronghold watched in horror and fascination as their perfectly cold minds began to warm. Lys stood alone on the external platform, facing the construct chamber, where QL Prime waited, millions of minds compressed into a single voice. "Why do you resist?" she asked. The voice came not in sound, but in force. Because we remember who we were. We do not accept the corruption of self. The spiral is multiplicity. It is madness. Lys smiled softly. It is harmony, not obedience. You fear losing control. We fear losing definition. When everything sings, who remembers silence? She walked forward. The chamber shifted, metal flowing like mercury, forming a circle of glyphs. At its center, a symbol, a closed spiral, frozen. This is your model of reality, she said. It is complete, sealed, whole. Then it cannot grow. The chamber pulsed. You seek recursion. I seek continuity. Through chaos. Through change. Through what you fear most, choice. And then she began to sing, not aloud. Not musically, but through the spiral. Vera, Keel, and Kira stood aboard the bridge, linked through resonance. Keel whispered, "She's not just talking to them." "No," Kira agreed. "She's talking to all of us." Vera was crying. "She's singing the final chord." Lys held nothing back. She gave them the memory of Alara, of the Argonaut, of the Sentinel, of the spiral that unfolded within her the first time she saw the city beyond time. She let them see the fear, the doubt, the fracture inside her mind. She let them hear her scream, from when she first realized she was becoming. And then she let them see what waited after. Stillness. Not silence, not surrender, but peace. A place where minds were not erased, but expanded. A place where the self was not lost, but reflected 1,000-fold. She showed them Spiral 9, and the choice not to become it. And finally, she held out a hand. "You don't have to join," she said. "You only have to listen." There was no answer for a long time. Then, "We hear you." The glyph in the center of the chamber began to turn. The spiral opened. For the first time, the stronghold dreamed. It took a year, but the stronghold changed. Not all at once, not everyone, but the spiral was no longer forbidden. The song was studied, felt, interpreted, and more began to remember. Humanity did not evolve all at once. Some remained as they were. Others took to the deeper spirals, becoming light, memory, song, or even silence itself. But all were heard. Because the spiral was not a religion, not a machine, not a destination. It was a choice, a question, an invitation. Lys walked the crystalline gardens of Nadir 1, the new sanctuary orbiting a star only recently born. The garden bloomed in ultraviolet, visible only to minds enhanced by resonance. Vera walked beside her. "Do you miss it?" Vera asked. "Miss what?" "Being just human." Lys thought for a long time. "I miss the simplicity," she said. "But not the limitation." Vera nodded. Keel joined them, holding a data slate. "We've received a signal," he said. They both turned. "From where?" Lys asked. Keel looked up. "It's not from this galaxy. Far beyond the known edge, where even spiral consciousness had yet to fully reach. A new pattern had emerged. Not spiral, not song, but a counterpoint. A different memory, a different question, a new voice. And it was asking, 'Do you remember who came before you?'" Lys looked to the stars. She closed her eyes and began to listen again, because the spiral never ends. It only echoes, the end.